Gamefreak is hiding something from you. What is good, people? It is Kaiser and KDP here, aka KDP, aka the Graphite Specialist, back at it again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the fact that I believe Gamefreak is hiding not just one, but possibly even two new Pokemon types in Scarlet and Violet. But why would I think this? What evidence do I have? Well, I will tell you, but first we're going to talk about this generation's new gimmick, terrestrialization. So, terrestrializing, the terrestrial phenomenon, whatever buzzword you want to call it. It's a new feature in these games that allow your Pokemon to change to a different type depending on its Terra type, such as a flying type Pikachu or a fire type Drifblim. Are we on the same page with that? Great. But I'm positive it'll be more than that. But why do I think this? Okay, so think back to the days of 2013 when Game Freak first revealed to us Mega Evolution in Pokemon X and Y. Then of course in Sun and Moon we got Z moves, and again in Sword and Shield we were given the Dynamax phenomenon. However, what I think we're all forgetting is that it was never just that, was it? With Dynamaxing, they brought along Gigantamax, a version of Dynamaxing that gives certain Pokemon unique designs and moves. Back to Z moves, sure, there was the run-of-the-mill Z moves that everyone could use, but there was also special Z moves reserved for certain Pokemon, like Incineroar's Malicious Moonsault and Necrozma's Light that burns the sky. While we're on the topic, by the way, that Z move is fucking brutal. It just drains the trainer's life force completely. Scary stuff. Obviously, this was way less of a thing when it came to Megas, but even there's still an argument to be made, with Charizard and Mewtwo having both X and Y forms, and Groudon and Kyogre getting given their primal versions, which were basically just hypercharged Mega Evolutions from a gameplay standpoint. Also though, this was the first ever gimmick we got, so it's no surprise that it's the loosest when it follows this kind of rule. But sure, so what, Kalen? What does this have to do with there being a new type? Well, here's the thing. Adding a new type at this stage of Pokemon would honestly be kind of a nightmare balancing wise. Sure, a YouTube search will show you hundreds of videos with people trying to make a new type like Light or Sound type, but ask anyone who's made one of those videos and they'll tell you just how hard it is to make sure not only that that type is balanced in its own right, but also doesn't then make one of the other 18 types a million times better or an abundance worse. But what if Game Freak didn't have to worry about that? Now, I'm not saying that Game Freak would intentionally add something extremely overpowered and broken to the game, but I'm also not saying that. Obviously, Game Freak are aware that if they did add a new type at this stage that ended up being overpowered, people would complain. But what if that type was temporary? What if they could add a type now that never had to appear in another generation? What if its time in play was limited even in this generation? I think you guys probably see where I'm going with this, but to back up my claim further, I'm gonna go on one last tangent. And that, people, is to go back a couple months to Pokemon Worlds. While in the closing ceremony, Pokemon showed off the return of EX to the card game. And not only EX, but a brand new Crystal EX to go alongside it. With this, they also showed new cards for Koraidon and Miraidon, both of which that were missing their types. This isn't the first time they've hid Koraidon and Miraidon's types either. One look on the Pokemon website will show they're still trying to keep them a big secret. So enough with the waiting, what am I getting at here? Well, I'm convinced, along with regular terrestrializing, certain Pokemon will be able to Terra change, or whatever the terminology may be, into a new, maybe even two, busted types. But what Pokemon do I think will get this, and what would the types even be? Well, for starters, the starters. It is kind of 50-50 if they would actually get access to this gimmick, considering that in the past, the Kalos starters never got Mega Evolutions, but the Alola starters did get Z moves. And then in Galar, they didn't originally have Gigantamax forms, but they were then added in the DLC. So who knows? Ones I could see getting it for definite though, obviously Koraidon and Miraidon, they would be a shoo-in, especially since I used them to prove this point. Cyclizar might get access to it to further its connection with the two legendaries. And another duo of Pokemon that I'd bet money on getting it if this gimmick does exist is Armarouge and Ceruledge, however the hell you say those names. Also, Game Freak, please give my new Monkey's Evolution this special type gimmick. That's if it does even evolve, we don't know yet. But okay, the types. What do I think they could be? This I'm still kind of on the fence with. If they just had the one type, there's a chance it will just be Terra type or Crystal type to go along with the card game. If it's two types though, it may possibly just be past and future types. Hell, this could even mean past and future forms for certain Pokemon when they transform into these types, as some people did actually speculate that would be a thing when Gen 9's time theme was shown off. There's only really so much I can do when it comes to naming speculation, just because there's not really much I can go on that front, and knowing Game Freak, they'll come up with something completely off the wall to name it anyway. But what do you guys think? Have I managed to convince you that Game Freak are hiding a new type and a deeper gimmick from us? This is the least they've ever shown us about a new Pokemon game before its release after all. If they do introduce one or even two new types, what do you guys think they'll be? What would you call them? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for getting to this far in the video. It truly helps me out so much, and it keeps me motivated to keep pumping out more Pokemon content leading up to the release of Gen 9. But that is all we've got time for today, people. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video if you found my ramblings interesting, and subscribe if you're hyped for these new generation of Pokemon. And I'll see you in the next video, stream, or whatever I make. Goodbye, people. Bye! You know that I will let you down before the fall. motivated. And it keeps you motivated. Fuck me. Talk, Helen.